Welcome to the Phillies Nation Fantasy Baseball Preview Show presented by DraftKings. We're going to break down the top 2 rounds of your upcoming baseball draft.
We'll take a look at some standout players at each position.
And how about some sleepers and busts? That's all ahead on the Phillies Nation Fantasy Baseball Preview Show presented by DraftKings. Welcome back. It is a new season, and we're going to help you out with your fantasy baseball team. It's the Phillies Nation Fantasy Baseball Preview Show presented by DraftKings. He is Corey Seidman. I am Pat Gallen, and we're going to help you not only for a full season of fantasy baseball, but for the one-day leagues that DraftKings does. And you may have heard of DraftKings. It's pretty much a new season every day, so you can play when you want. Go to DraftKings.com. Do this. Make sure you enter the promo code PHILS. You'll get a free entry for an opening day league. They're giving away $100,000 to their winners. So make sure you sign up.
Yeah, the main difference between these daily leagues like DraftKings and a regular fantasy league is that you're redrafting every day. So you're looking for matchups. You're not just looking for the best available players. A quick example, on opening day, Clayton Kershaw is going to cost you $12,400 of your $50,000 salary cap, whereas Clay Buchholz against the Phillies is $6,900. I know where I'm going with that.
Way to pick on the Phils as we start off this show here. But let's get into the top 2 rounds of our drafts. The top 20 to 30 players are normally in that same boat. So who are a couple of guys that you like right off the top?
I really like Robinson Cano. I mean, he's obviously a great hitter, but also because of the positional scarcity at second base, it's more pronounced than ever before, really. Right. So if I have the 8th overall pick, if I have the 13th overall pick, and there's Robinson Cano or a first baseman that I'm going for, a guy like Anthony Rizzo, I'm opting for the second baseman knowing that I can fill first base later. And the reason for that is if you look at Robinson Cano compared to the rest of the second basemen, last season, an 836 OPS, the MLB average for a second baseman was 671. So we're looking at almost 200 points higher Cano is than the average major league second baseman. Sure. And the other guys on that list, Brian Dozier, Neil Walker, not really sold on them. How about you? Who you got?
I like Jose Abreu to start, and I know he's sort of on everyone's radar now because of the season he had last year, hit .317, hits for a ton of power, but that White Sox lineup looks like it's going to be a lot better. They've added a couple of bats. Adam LaRoche is one, Emilio Bonifacio, Melky Cabrera. So Jose Abreu, he's going to be near the top of lists. I'm going to try and get him pretty early, though, because power is so scarce throughout baseball. You got to get a guy that can hit 30 to 40 home runs. He's one of them.
Yeah, he's going to be a top 5 to 7 pick. It's crazy how different it is from a year ago when nobody knew what to expect. But Jose Abreu, it was steady production to extra base hits per month. It was, unreal. And let's stay in Chicago. Anthony Rizzo is another guy who really emerged last year as well. 32 home runs. He only drove in 78 runs, but he's in a better lineup as well. So that RBI total you can expect to increase. Guy who hit .286 with an on-base percentage 100 points higher. And keeping in that theme, Jose Bautista is another guy who walks a ton. 104 walks last year, the only player in baseball with 100-plus RBIs, runs, and walks. So he's another guy I'm looking at early because he can also play first base and outfield.
I've got a guy that drives a lot of people nuts, and that's Troy Tulowitzki of the Colorado Rockies. At that position, shortstop, it's so scarce. He hits for power, especially playing at Coors Field. He's a guy that I still like at the top of the draft, even though you don't know if he's going to play 162 games. He normally doesn't.
Well, the mind-blowing thing about Tulowitzki is that despite missing all that time last year, for pretty much the entire season, he led all shortstops in wins above replacement. Yeah. Injured guys, injured early stars. Miguel Cabrera, he's a guy that's gone 1 or 2 in your fantasy league probably 4 or 5 years in a row. But the fact that he had off-season ankle surgery, he had a lot of foot and ankle problems last year, questionable for opening day. Victor Martinez is also questionable for opening day, so his lineup protection there is shaky as well. And really, if you look at the numbers, Cabrera declined in every possible way last year. I don't expect that he's going to have as bad a year as he had last year when he hit .313 and still, drove in 100 runs. But he's not a guy I'm taking 1 or 2 anymore.
Yeah, he's going to be in the top 10 probably, but not 1 or 2 like he normally is. Used to be Trout and Cabrera. It's no longer that way.
And he's also not third base eligible anymore, only first base.
That's a good point. Another guy that I like that's sort of outside the top 20, maybe right in that range, Jose Altuve. Sort of came out of nowhere, was a mid-round pick for the Houston Astros last year, but his numbers were off the charts. He won the batting title in the National League last year. The lineup around him looks like it's going to be a lot better in Houston. There's a ton of power around him, so that could mean a better on-base percentage. I don't know that it necessarily means more hits for him, but more runs, better on-base percentage. No power, I think we know that with Jose Altuve, but 50, maybe 60 steals. And on top of that, daily leagues, in DraftKings, he's perfect because rarely does he give you that 0 for 4, 2 or 3 strikeout game. He always gives you hits. He's always getting on base. That's perfect for the one-day leagues.
Yeah, Altuve is a stud in daily leagues especially, and it's crazy to think that a guy like that is going to be a first or second round pick in fantasy leagues, being 5'5".
It's crazy.
But he's off to a great start of his career. And I'll give you one more guy I'm not really sold on in the first 2 rounds, and that's Adam Jones of the Orioles.
Okay.
You know, I look at the numbers. Adam Jones is a guy who can give you 30 homers, 30 doubles, hit 280, but you know, last year, 19 walks, 133 strikeouts. I just feel like, especially in a daily league, you can get that production from so many other outfielders.
And he doesn't have that protection that he had before with Nelson Cruz, who had a ton of home runs last year in Baltimore. Another guy that I'm not so sold on, it sounds crazy this way, but Adrian Beltre of the Texas Rangers. He's going to be 36 years old. He's not hitting for as much power as he did in the past. I think that you feel a little bit differently about this, and we'll talk a little bit more about it in our positional rankings, but 19 home runs a year ago. The Texas lineup is just not the same as it was before. It's really just Fielder, Chu, and then who?
Yeah, well, I disagree, but I'll leave that for later in the show.
All right, when we come back, Rachel McCauley is going to join us. We'll go through the positional rankings, and Sean Forman from Baseball Reference joins us. Don't go anywhere. It's the Phillies Nation Baseball Preview Show presented by DraftKings.
Behold, we are in the presence of champions, fantasy sports legends who have earned hundreds of thousands of dollars playing online. Meet Arlie Gonzalez, average guy, superior sports knowledge, picked a team in minutes, and won enough to throw the party of a lifetime. In outer space. Former accountant Derek Bradley. DraftKings one-day fantasy baseball took him from a guy with holes in his underpants to a guy with bikini models in them.
How do we turn our love of fantasy sports into reality cash?
DraftKings.com. They have one-day games, so you're not locked in. It's like a new season every time you play. And best of all, you could win a shipload of money.
Start playing today for your share of $1 billion. Use promo code PITCH and get free entry in our 100K baseball contest on opening day. More sports, more winners, more millionaires. Get to DraftKings.com now.
Our customers tell us it's important that they know who they're doing business with. Basement foundation issues are never fun, and finding a contractor that you can trust can be hard. That's why I founded BQ Basement Systems in 1997. We're the experts in identifying and fixing problems in your basement, your crawl space, foundation repairs, and all things basementing. Have one of our certified inspectors out for your free evaluation and estimate. Visit us at bqbasementsystems.com or call us at 1-800-339-2070.
Live sports, craft beer, great food, good times. What more do you need? Every day is a party at Fieldhouse Sports and Beer Hall, the largest sports bar in Center City. Come to 11th and Filbert to see what you've been missing. Welcome back to the Phillies Nation Fantasy Baseball Preview Show presented by DraftKings, and we'd like to introduce our new co-host for the 2015 season, Rachel McCauley. Rachel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Of course.
Looking
Glad to have you
forward
aboard.
to chatting baseball with you guys, and I think it should be a fun year.
I think so.
Sure.
So we're going to get started, talk positional rankings in fantasy baseball for your fantasy teams, and we're going to start up with catcher. Corey, what do you think?
Okay, catcher is an interesting position for me this year because a couple of the guys that you might have drafted early the last couple of years, Joe Mauer, Carlos Santana, they're no longer catcher eligible. So a guy like Mauer, I don't even know if he's a draftable player because
No power.
yeah, he's only a first baseman,
Right.
and if he's going to hit 285 with 7 homers, where's the value? So I'm looking at a couple veteran catchers that I think should be at the top of boards. I think that they're ahead of guys like Devin Mesoraco and Yan Gomes, who emerged last year. I really like Yadier Molina. Coming off an injury-plagued season, but the previous 3 hit 313,
Right.
slugged 480. You know, Jonathan Lucroy, another veteran in the NL Central, people might think that last year was like his breakout, but it wasn't. The last 4 seasons he's at 297, OPS in the mid-800s as well, so that's where I'm looking first. How about you?
Lucroy still kind of flies under the radar
Yeah.
a little bit in Milwaukee, and Molina obviously is going to be at the top of a lot of boards. I like Russell Martin, moving from Pittsburgh to Toronto this year and playing in a ballpark that's conducive to home runs. Looking at park factor from last year, 3rd easiest park to hit home runs in is the Rogers Center. Plus, he's going to hit, it looks like, high in the lineup, and behind him is Edwin Encarnacion and Jose Bautista. So he could score a lot of runs.
And in front of him is Jose Reyes.
So he's slotted in a great spot in the lineup in Toronto, and he can play some DH too, because you worry about wear and tear with a guy like Russell Martin on the wrong side of 30, but I think that for a middle round pick, I like Russell Martin a lot.
All right, up next, outfield. Pat, who you got?
I got George Springer first because he's gonna strike out a ton. You know that Houston lineup up and down strikes out a lot. But if you're in a league that really is geared toward home runs and maybe even a points league, there's a guy who's probably going to hit 30, 35 home runs. And last year, a lot of Ks, but a home run every 17.25 plate appearances, which is in the top 15. And he was just a rookie. So I like George Springer. And I also like Carlos Gonzalez of the Colorado Rockies. We talked earlier about Troy Tulowitzki, who always hurt. Carlos Gonzalez is kind of the same guy, but if he can stay healthy, this year, no one's going to get duped into taking him in the first round or two. I think for a 4th, 5th, 6th round pick, Carlos Gonzalez in Coors Field, and if he's healthy, he's going to hit it for a high average, and he's going to hit a lot of home runs and knock in some runs as well.
Yeah, I noticed that Carlos Gonzalez is right next to Starling Marte on most outfield positional rankings.
Right.
I like Starling Marte a lot better. He really came on the second half of last year. I look at him, I look at Jason Hayward as two guys who I really expect to just continue to produce more and more offensively. Hayward now being in St. Louis. How about another guy who changed teams, Matt Kemp?
Yeah, San Diego now.
Slugged .606 in the second half last year, highest in baseball.
So you don't care about Petco? Doesn't bother you that's where he's playing now?
It doesn't as much because the park factor is a little different. They brought the fences in. I think they shortened one of the fences. So Matt Kemp has the kind of power that plays anywhere. He's a no doubt about it when he hits his home runs. It's not like he just gets them over the left field wall. He hits his home runs to center field.
Another injury risk
to right field. Yeah, he's definitely an injury risk. But just based on where he is, I like him. There are a couple guys I really don't like, and I'm going to advise you to stay away from, though. Matt Holliday is one.
Okay.
35 years old. His numbers have declined each of the last 3 or 4 years. The power is really going away. I mean, he no longer plays at Coors Field, obviously, so that has a bit of a factor there. But Nelson Cruz also going from Baltimore to Seattle.
That's a big one.
I know you don't really like Nelson Cruz this year, right?
Yeah, he's one of my busts, and really just for the fact that he's going from Baltimore to Seattle and he hit 40 home runs last year. Robinson Cano's a guy that moved from the Yankees to the Mariners and lost 14 home runs in one season.
Right.
Another guy I don't like, Hunter Pence, and it's not that I don't like him as a hitter, but he's coming off a wrist injury, which can sap your power. He's not necessarily a power hitter, but 20 home runs last year. He's hit 20 home runs in each of the past few seasons. So that could be a problem when you have that sort of wrist injury. And even for one-day leagues, I would wait into the middle of the season to use a guy like that.
I'll give you one more that I don't like. Bryce Harper.
No one likes
tremendous.
Bryce Harper.
No, I mean personally,
What's
whatever.
to like about it?
Tremendous talent, obviously, but he's just so overrated. He still hasn't had a breakout season. He's a 275 career hitter, and his average draft position is just so much higher than what he's actually been worth the last couple of years. And if you're in an auction league, if you're in an auction fantasy league, he's the kind of guy I would recommend nominating immediately because someone's going to overbid for him.
I noticed you guys didn't mention any current Phillies on those
We have
lists.
not.
So we're going to send it down to Clearwater for a couple of your fan questions.
I'm Dan from Wilmington. I want to know what Philly I should pick for my fantasy baseball team.
Yeah, there aren't a whole lot of draftable Phillies. I would say the only guys that are must drafts, obviously, are Jonathan Papelbon and Cole Hamels. Papelbon had a great year last year despite the decline in velocity, having an exceptional spring. Maybe Ben Revere, too, if you need some steals.
And we have one more question from Clearwater.
This is Joe from Philly. I'm wondering, is Chase Utley a safe pick to take in the later round of the draft?
Yeah, I actually would take Chase Utley in later rounds. He's probably still a top 10 second baseman, although what I would do is draft him, and then once he gets off to that Chase Utley hot start that he always does, trade him right away, because as we know, as the season progresses, Chase Utley tends to wear down.
Up next on Phillies Nation Fantasy Baseball Special presented by DraftKings, Corey catches up with Sean Forman, creator and founder of BaseballReference.com. We'll be right back.
If you're a sports fan, you need to check out Sports Vault. Our stores will surround you with a great selection of autographed memorabilia, licensed apparel, trading cards, and novelties. Want to meet your favorite local and national superstars? Sports Vault brings the legends to you with dozens of in-store appearances. Check out any of our 3 locations in King of Prussia, Exton, or Moorestown. Or visit sportsvaultshop.com and use the code PhilliesNation to save 20% on your next order of autographed merchandise.
Our customers tell us it's important that they know who they're doing business with. Basement foundation issues are never fun, and finding a contractor that you can trust can be hard. That's why I founded BQ Basement Systems in 1997. We're the experts in identifying and fixing problems in your basement, your crawl space, foundation repairs, and all things basementing. Have one of our certified inspectors out for your free evaluation and estimate. Visit us at bqbasementsystems.com or call us at 1-800-339-2070.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
Behold, we are in the presence of champions. Fantasy sports legends who have earned hundreds of thousands of dollars playing online. Meet Arlie Gonzalez. Average guy, superior sports knowledge. Picked a team in minutes and won enough to throw the party of a lifetime. In outer space. Former accountant Derek Bradley. DraftKings One Day Fantasy Baseball took him from a guy with holes in his underpants to a guy with bikini models in them.
How do we turn our love of fantasy sports into reality cash?
DraftKings.com. They have one-day games, so you're not locked in. It's like a new season every time you play. And best of all, you could win a shipload of money.
Start playing today for your share of $1 billion. Use promo code PITCH and get free entry in our 100K baseball contest on opening day. More sports, more winners, more millionaires. Get to DraftKings.com now.
With the advent of fantasy and just how much it's exploded, the daily leagues, the weekly leagues over the years, curious to some of the tools on Baseball Reference that can directly or indirectly help the fantasy player.
Well, we're all about information, so we provide as much information to users as possible. One feature we have is if a player changes teams, you could translate his stats from, say, Michael Kadire. You could translate his stats from Coors Field into Citi Field and see what his 2014 season would have looked like playing a full year in Citi Field.
Does that also account for a player changing leagues? A John Lester going from the AL to the NL, would it help the fantasy player there kind of imagine what he might do with the Cubs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if the run scoring environment, the AL obviously has the DH, so run scoring tends to be a little higher, so we adjust for that differing run scoring environment. And we also look at what the difference is in park factors. So, Fenway has a reputation as a hitter's park. It doesn't always quite play out that way, but he's moving into Wrigley, and we look at historically how those two parks have played and then adjust the numbers based on that.
Now, I've noticed in recent years the incorporation of the fantasy and the daily fantasy leagues on your site. I've noticed DraftKings' presence. Are there any new wrinkles you have planned to kind of incorporate that?
Yeah, so I mean, the daily fantasy is obviously a huge, tremendously growing market. A lot of people trying to get an edge, and one of the things we're planning to do with the start of the season is to include actually daily fantasy points in the player game log, so you can see, as a player, game by game how they did and how they scored in daily fantasy games. There are a lot of little tools that will help you do research, things like that. We're also looking at adding historical price charts for the players, kind of to show you how their price and how their scoring level has changed, through the course of the season, to give you kind of a little more feel about who might be a bargain and who might not be.
Well, if there's any one thing we know a DraftKings player is looking for, it's an edge, and it sounds like there are many edges to be gained at BaseballReference.com.
Absolutely. We certainly hope so.
I'm on Baseball Reference all the time, and there's a lot of things Sean showed me that I didn't even know, especially that neutralization tool, which can help with guys switching teams.
All right, guys, up next we're going to do buy or sell on the infield players that we have in fantasy baseball. Okay. So, Pat, let's start with you. You like Buster Posey at first base?
I do, actually. Not that I don't like him at catcher, but I think with the positional ranking and the positional eligibility being both catcher and first base, obviously you're going to draft him as a catcher, but it's nice to be able to move him back and forth. And Fangraphs has him actually pegged for 6.5 WAR this year. That's a big number. Joey Votto's another guy I like. The power has not been there recently. 37 home runs back in 2010, then 29. It's gone downhill gradually. And really, for him, it's between, WAR and on-base percentage or hitting for power. That's been the argument. What should Joey Votto do? Should he take the walks or should he hit for power? I think he's going to find that medium this year because the Cincinnati Reds absolutely need it. So I see 20-plus homers, 90-plus RBIs for Votto.
Yeah, I love Joey Votto, too. Another bounce-back guy I have is Prince Fielder, playing in Texas. I thought he was going to kill it last year. He just got hurt too early to do so, but I'd recommend Prince Fielder.
Second base, Corey, you like a rookie?
Yeah, Mookie Betts, a really talented young player for the Red Sox, going to bat at the top of their order, eligible at second base and outfield. I think maybe one day he could be an Andrew McCutchen-like talent if the power develops. But, a couple guys I don't like at second base. I don't like Brian Dozier. Really came out of nowhere last year for the Twins and tailed off after May. Still had good counting stats, but I'm not in love with him.
I like a couple of guys, D. Gordon being one. He's going to give you a ton of steals. Not going to hit for power. So if you have a team that's loaded with power hitters, you can take a chance on a guy like D. Gordon. Another guy is Howie Kendrick of the Dodgers, traded from the Angels to the Dodgers. And that lineup looks like it's going to be stacked with the Dodgers this year, so he's a nice late-round selection as well. Sure.
Shortstop, you guys disagree on a pretty big name here.
We always disagree. Hanley Ramirez, I don't like him and you do like him.
I mean, I love him just because you're going from LA to Boston. The ballpark factor is huge there, and he's in a better lineup. I really like Hanley.
The only thing I worry about with Hanley Ramirez is his health and now his age. He's on the wrong side of 30. He's going to hit a lot of doubles off that wall at Fenway, but he's another guy that hasn't really been healthy, just 1 year in the last 4.
Third base, another disagreement here.
Yeah, and Adrian Beltre, you mentioned that you didn't like him. I love him. I mean, as consistent as it gets, .316 batting average the last 5 seasons. You know he's going to give you 25-plus home runs. I'm taking Adrian Beltre in the second round.
Dude, it's the age, and at some point, it's going to catch up to you. He's been healthy for a long time now without missing considerable time. I think you got to watch out for that.
All right, guys, be interesting to see what happens.
Let's see.
Up next on Phillies Nation Fantasy Baseball Special, presented by DraftKings, Corey and Pat give their starting pitchers and sleepers and busts. We'll be right back.
Philly has a long sports history filled with great players and moments. Shibe Vintage Sports in Center City relives the glory years with fashionable attire for all your favorite teams. Separate yourself from the crowd with the hippest Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, and Sixers gear. Pick up some unique shirts featuring local teams of yesteryear, or come to fun events where you can learn about your favorite teams. So if you're a sports fan, then you need to check out Shibe Vintage Sports. Visit them at 13th and Walnut or shibesports.com.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
We're very excited to implement a program called 8 Weeks to Wellness. At Summit Spine and Wellness, we combine chiropractic care, massage therapy, customized nutrition, personal training, and meditation. If you want to improve your health, take the 8 Week to Wellness Challenge like Dan, who lost 32 pounds, 6 inches off his waist, and 94 points off his cholesterol. We use a customized wellness score to measure your health and develop a diet and fitness plan just for you. Call our office at 215-487-2500 and ask about getting set up for your wellness score.
Welcome back to the Phillies Nation Fantasy Baseball Preview Show presented by DraftKings. Let's get into some of the pitchers that we like this year. How about I start us off?
Go.
I like Jordan Zimmerman because he is a quality start king. He had 24 quality starts out of his 32 last year. Not going to wow you with a lot of strikeouts, but he's an innings eater. And I know in a lot of fantasy leagues you draft 4 guys that strike out a ton. He's not going to do that, but he can give you 7, 8 innings pretty much any time he goes out. So I like him.
Yeah, I'm not off the beaten path here or anything, but after Clayton Kershaw, I'm saying the consensus number 2 pick for a starting pitcher is Max Scherzer.
Okay.
Because of the ERA, because of the strikeouts, because of the durability, but also because he's going from the American League to the National League. Baseball Reference, as Sean Forman pointed out earlier in the show, has a conversion tool that lets you neutralize numbers from one league to the other, from one ballpark to the other. So if you take Max Scherzer's 2014 season and put him on the Nationals, his ERA decreases from 2.99 to 2.74. the whip from 1.20 to 1.12. That is significant over a full season. And, just facing pitchers instead of DHs, I think Max Scherzer has a chance to best Clayton Kershaw this year.
Wow, that's a big statement by you.
He's getting paid to do it, too.
It's tough to do. A couple of other guys I like. How about James Shields? He's sort of nearing, the downslope of his career, but when you go to Petco Park and that massive park, your numbers are bound to go down. So I like that in that regard. Also, Michael Wacha of the Cardinals missed 14 games last year with a shoulder injury, but he is a high upside pitcher. Could be a number 2 type guy with a lot of strikeouts. He's going to walk some guys, so a middle round pitcher in Michael Wacha.
Yeah, I love Shields. I mean, he's had a dominant spring as well, and just another guy going from the AL to the NL and also going to one of the best pitchers parks in all of baseball. I expect him to have a very good year. Another guy who switched leagues, or not switched leagues, but switched teams, Matt Latos. Guy who went from Cincinnati to Miami, going from a small park to a cavernous park where nobody hits home runs, and that matters for a guy like Latos, who's a fly ball pitcher.
I agree.
I'm going to give you a guy I don't really like. I don't love Corey Kluber. I think he's going to have a very good season just relative to his draft position. I worry that not that it was a one-year fluke, but that this year guys are going to catch up to his slider a little more. It was statistically the best pitch in baseball among any pitcher. So I don't know if he can maintain that. And if it comes to Kluber or a guy like Madison Bumgarner, I'm taking the more proven guy.
How about one other guy that we both like that is going to come back this year? Matt Harvey of the New York Mets. And he is a man possessed. He can put up major K totals, and he might not go in the top few rounds because people are worried about the elbow.
Yeah, I saw that on Yahoo, at least, in standard leagues, he was ranked 150th overall, projected going into 2015. Just a note here, a couple aces who are going to start the year on the shelf. Chris Sale's probably not going to be ready for opening day of the White Sox, and Alex Cobb of the Rays got hurt against the Phillies in a spring training game earlier this year. He probably won't be ready either.
All right, wake up. We got some sleepers. Who you got?
Sleeper-wise, okay, I'm going to start with Mookie Betts. Okay, he's not. I know a lot of people know his name, but if you look at Mookie Betts' DraftKings price right now compared to the other outfielders, he's at $4,000, whereas an Andrew McCutchen, a Mike Trout are in the mid-5s. Pick Mookie Betts as often as you can early in the season before the world catches up to just how good he is.
That number goes up.
Yeah, because he was great last year in the minors, great in the majors at the end of the year, and he's carried it over into spring training.
I got 2 guys I like for sleepers. One's not terribly a sleeper because he was all over the map as far as a signing goes from Cuba, Yasmani Tomas. Now with the Arizona Diamondbacks, but that is a very hitter-friendly ballpark. He could hit 25 to 30 home runs there. And another guy who looked great in his first few starts in the majors, James Paxton from the Seattle Mariners, plays in that cavernous park at Safeco Field. So another guy to look at in the later rounds. How about some minor league guys? Let's find out about those studs at the minor league level that you'll need to know about this year with our own Jay Floyd.
Thanks a lot, guys. We're going to talk about some prospects that fantasy drafters need to be aware of. One mainstay that's going to be on everybody's draft list this year, Chris Bryant of the Chicago Cubs, third baseman. Everybody knows about him. Third baseman, hit 43 home runs, led the minor leagues in home runs last year, hit about 1 homer every 10 at-bats. That's a guy that you're going to need to know. 8 home runs already this spring. Bryant's a guy that's likely going to be on the Cubs opening day roster, but even if he's not, he's definitely worth your recognition and pick in DraftKings baseball leagues. Third base is a deep position for prospects this year. Joey Gallo of the Texas Rangers, a sweet swinging lefty guy. Powerhouse, 6'5". This guy's a special hitter, so Joey Gallo's a guy you want to be looking at to stash on your benches here entering the season. Third base, again, a deep position. Miguel Sano of the Minnesota Twins. He's a righty batter, Dominican native, hit 35 homers, drove in 103 runs in 2013 prior to being sidelined with an elbow injury. Was out the full 2014 campaign with Tommy John surgery, but Miguel Sano is a name to know. And then lastly, if you're looking for a pitcher to stash, Carlos Rodon, third overall pick last year, throws a 97-mile-an-hour fastball. He's got a devastating, sweet slider. Carlos Rodon's a name to pick up on in your DraftKings leagues. Lefty hurler for those White Sox. So those are names you're going to want to keep an eye on entering your fantasy season. Back to you guys.
So that'll do it for our Phillies Nation Fantasy Baseball Preview Show presented by DraftKings.
Good luck drafting, everybody.
Good luck. Thanks to everyone involved. For Corey, I'm Pat. This has been the PNTV Fantasy Baseball Preview Show. Thank you, DraftKings.